Ruth, Gina, and Alice. Hello and welcome everyone. To start with, I would like to show you this mousetrap. It's hard to see from there, but it is missing a piece. Like some of our school systems in Canada that are missing a key component on the proper teachings on the theories of origins. To define first, I will say origins, the theories of origins are how the universe and Earth and people or life got here.
I do hope in your usage of the plural of theory that you are making reference to the Big Bang Theory, the theory of abiogenesis, and the theory of evolution as three separate theories, rather than trying to pass off intelligent design, aka God did it, as a theory, because this would only show a complete ignorance of scientific terminology on your behalf if you were attempting to do this, because a scientific theory is the last stage of science. A scientific theory is an explanation of scientific law, which is based on the repeated testing of a scientific hypothesis to come up with some form of predictive model. Intelligent design doesn't even get past the first stage, i.e., at most, intelligent design, due to the complete lack of evidence, does not even pass the hypothesis stage, and therefore cannot be classed as a theory, which is the final stage of science. So, I politely ask you to refrain from either lying or being ignorant of the scientific language and attempting to equate the two. Greetings and welcome to YouTube. This is Essence of 40 and I'm doing a video response to Blaire Koop's video, A Persuasive Speech, and of course it's on intelligent design and evolution. We'll go straight into it and I'll see you in a bit.
Our first problem is not primarily in schools that we teach evolution, it's how we teach evolution. A survey by Creationist of 500 Christians found that only 56% said that they do not have a clue what the difference is between micro and macro evolution.
The only possible conceived difference between the two is time. You see, micro plus micro equals macro. The theory of microevolution discusses within several generations, i.e. the changes that occur there. What macro does, macro takes this theory, projects it over life on Earth throughout its history. That's the only difference, contrary to what Creationist will argue. It seems like that you've been listening to the likes of Ken Ham, Ray Comfort, Kirk Cameron, three of the most uneducated people when it comes to the theory of evolution, i.e. that instead of delivering factual critiques of evolution, they have to resort to lying about what evolution actually says to convince the most ignorant of society. Sorry for that, Miss Koop.
This is a very large problem since that is the basic tenet of the definition of the theory we are primarily teaching to our students.
Nope, not true in the slightest. You see, evolution deals with evolution on a whole, i.e. gradual changes occurring over a period of time leading to larger differences between different populations. Both of them have the exact same principle, the exact same mechanism, just one deals with a more micro scale, one deals with more of a macro scale. That's the only difference. That's why we get micro and macro evolution. So, if you get the process of one, by default you get the process of the other. All you have to do is apply it to the wider field. On another note, did you know that 100% of creationists do not know what a kind is? Honestly, if you ask anyone from the likes of, Ray Comfort, Kirk Cameron, or your average everyday creationist, not a single one of them will be able to define for you a kind, because it is a bullshit concept to try and get away from actual taxonomy, which agrees with the theory of evolution.
To define micro and macro evolution, micro is small-scale changes that are fact, and they are often seen. Evolution 101 quotes, quote, "House sparrows have adapted to the climate of North America, mosquitoes have evolved in response to global warming, and insects have evolved resistance to other pesticides," end quote. Macroevolution is not observed, It is not fact. It is something along the lines of a whale growing legs and over millions of years becoming a person. To quote the Discovery Institute,
hold your fucking horses. You cannot just quote one place and then go to another place, i.e. bullshit alley, because it suits you, it's convenient to you. You cannot do that. If you're going to quote one place on one definition, quote the other definition from the exact same place. As you did not do that, allow me to do it for you. Macroevolution is evolution on a grand scale. What we see when we look at the overarching history of life: stability, change, lineages arising, and extinction. So in simple terms, it's the exact same as microevolution, but over a larger period of time. I came up with a possible analogy for this that I think suits quite well. We could look at the ideas of micro and macro erosion, if you want to call them. We can observe the micro effects of the weather, e.g. the effects of water, the effects of freeze-thawing on, rock faces, etc., as well as the biological effects, for example, trees growing. We can observe the effects of micro erosion, but given enough time, these same processes can lead to, entire mountains or hills being eroded, to canyons being carved in rivers, etc. We haven't observed the formation of these directly. All we can see are the micro-erosion processes still going on at the moment. Luckily, we have other evidence that we can actually look, okay, here's where the sediment went and all this. Same for evolution. We've got the taxonomy, we've got the fossil records, we've got the genetics, everything. We have every piece of evidence overlaying one another that proves the theory of evolution. On top of this, the theory of evolution is falsifiable. Every time we dig up a fossil, we are testing the predictive capability of the theory of evolution and of natural selection. You will not expect to find a fossilized human skeleton inside of a T-Rex or a primordial poodle. Each time so far, out of the millions of fossils that have been dug up, each one has, agreed with the theory of evolution or failed to falsify it. So yes, there is an overwhelming amount of evidence for evolution.
It says that macroevolution is dependent on, quote, large-scale changes in morphology or anatomy, which are harmful. And anatomy, morphology, aka mutations. So the larger the mutation, the more harmful it is, and that gives you an idea of how strong it is for macroevolution.
What utter toss! Macroevolution relies on the basis of gradual changes occurring over an extensive period of time. The time scale is the only difference between macro and microevolution. When you rely on a hypothesis that only finds an ability to stand on the basis of lying, what do you think that makes you look like? What light does that put you in? As for mutation, you are a mutant. Even the chromosomes that you got from your parents are slightly mutated, slightly edited, slightly changed. So, you really should go back to school. I suggest starting about, age 8, going through biology. You need to do some sex education for one, to understand how mutation can occur there. You need to actually understand what evolution states. It doesn't state that you'll suddenly grow a third arm sticking out of your stomach. You really need to do this stuff and actually learn what the fuck evolution says.
My kids know the difference because I tell them often, I'm in your face. So they will not be, hopefully, ever part of the 56%. But what of the rest of students that don't know the difference because they don't have a parent in your face? How will they know? And how will they know the proper definition, which is very important?
So you, a mother, will go on camera and admit that you outright lie to your children, as I know from the fact that you quote one definition from a source whilst ignoring the other definition from the exact same source, which would explain your ignorance. You know, it would correct your false definition got from the Discovery Institute. Lying to your children is nothing to be proud of, and I hope you eventually, when you look back at this, feel disgusted at your actions.
As T. Gregory says for Science 2.0, quote, the issue of false preconceptions about evolution is a major barrier to understanding among students, end quote.
The quote that you just stated there was on about people like you or the Discovery Institute. You know, you guys go out there and lie to children about the way evolution operates, which then fundamentally creates this preconceived notion that evolution is wrong. Therefore, that child will reject any future evidence that does not agree with this preconceived notion upon faith. You plant the seeds of willful ignorance. I'm planting the seeds of skepticism.
My second point is that many teachers do not know what their abilities or what they're allowed to speak on about topics of origins in school, so they generally revert to evolution.
No, schools are there to teach and educate. Therefore, in science class, what they teach must be based off science. Creationism has no science, therefore has no place in science class. Learn your shit.
And as we've seen, it's not even taught properly.
No, Miss Koop, we've seen that you are a pathological liar who is willfully ignorant, rejecting evidence based upon faith, as is shown by the answers that were given to you by Evolution 101, i.e. a source that you quoted, but obviously either did not read into or just wanted to lie about.
A teacher friend of mine from Saskatchewan recently told me that she couldn't talk about being a Christian, so she can't talk about anything besides the evolution. This is a misconception about religion being in the schools, which was banned in 1944, not about not being able to teach beyond evolution.
If he or she, or you for that matter, want to preach, go to church. School is therefore the education of facts, not indoctrination into how to ignore them.
So what can be taught? Well, first we will look at intelligent design, defined by John G. West, writer for the Center for Science and Culture, as a scientific inference based on empirical evidence, not on religious texts.
Sadly, for you, a definition isn't anything else but a definition. It has no weight to the actual legitimacy of the argument. Also, by your own standards, you have just excluded creationism from intelligent design, because creationism is completely void of any empirical evidence. Awkward.
ID is scientific, and it does not talk about God, it doesn't talk about religion, it doesn't talk about the Bible, yet it promotes God values by promoting such things as reasoning together in Isaiah 1:18, not being taken by vain human philosophy in Colossians 2:8, and seeing that the creation, or the world around us, shows that we have a creator, Romans 1:20.
You just contradicted yourself in that segment. I don't even have to pull that one apart because you just lied directly. You know, you just went, it doesn't teach X, it only teaches X. Where's the fun in this?
We have seen some problems, and now I offer some solutions. First, teachers should, if they have not already, educated themselves on the difference between micro and macro evolution and tell their students.
I wish you weren't such a hypocrite and would actually take your own damned advice.
Second, they must educate themselves on what they can and cannot teach in schools, because this is very important.
How about this for a rule of thumb? If you are a science teacher, teach actual science, not forks or anti-science.
Third, intelligent design needs to be taught alongside evolution so kids can have the proper facts and analyze for themselves and make decisions for themselves that make them well-rounded individuals. And I urge parents to speak to the teachers of your children about teaching intelligent design alongside evolution properly if they are not already doing so.
Should we have geography teachers and astrophysics teachers telling students that the Earth could be flat under a solid dome dotted by stars? No? Why not? That is the biblical account of the shape of the Earth, and it has the exact same scientific backing as creationism.
It is with this, I once again reference the mousetrap. This mousetrap, missing a piece, also shows irreducible complexity. This is being proposed by Michael J. Behe, biochemist at Lehigh University, who has said that irreducible complexity in such organisms, such as the bacterial flagellum or giraffes and many other organisms, shows that all of the components need to be in place at once, and they cannot slowly evolve, or else the animal cannot survive, let alone survive to reproduce and evolve.
Luckily, again, this is utter toss, and it is possible for us to explain how single-celled organisms became multi-celled structures with single cells working in cooperation, eventually became actual single organisms with multiple cells, and we can also map the development of lungs, respiration on land, example when we go from fish to proto-amphibians, we can map all of these things. So yeah, it is utter toss.
And it is with this I want to mention, I did not learn this in my 13 years of school. I learned this because as an adult, as a young adult, I looked it up on the internet. I wasn't happy with what little I had been taught that was confusing me. So I looked it up, but we cannot count on all our students to do this for themselves, ever. So that is why we, as teachers and parents, need to teach evolution and intelligent design properly together and be proactive now.
Sadly, you, unlike the scientific community, have not weighed the evidence for both of the concepts, i.e. the theory of evolution and the hypothesis for creationism or intelligent design. Your goal is to set out and lie to students. I'm not going to respect that in the slightest as an actual student. It's quite easy for you to actually learn what Darwin and what later evolutionary biologists have said, rather than resorting to direct lies, chosen ignorance. You quoted a definition from one source, but on the other, you deliberately changed the source. This tells me you must have read the definition from that one source, else you would have just used that one, and you would have gone, haha, look, even the evolutionists describe it this way. So yes, I do know you're lying, and willfully so. So yes, this is the end of the video. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Please share this video if you want. It always encourages me when I get new people subscribing. Also, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment down below. This is Essence of Thought. Take care and out.